This is Infection, the survival podcast recorded live on Tuesday, August the 23rd, 2022, episode 396. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your weekly source for the latest on the video game industry, with a little bit of a common sense political twist in there as well. My name is Nick Craig. Thank you so much for joining us. As I'm sure you can hear, I have lost my voice, which makes doing 3 hours of talk radio incredibly challenging, but nevertheless, we power through here. You can check out my website, nickcraig.com, or you can check out the Wilmington's Morning News podcast, and then you can follow me over on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig, or all of my other social medias are listed there as well. And of course, our website, infectionpodcast.com. Joining me as he does each and every week, I believe that's the new Dune background, if I'm looking correctly, Brian. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of... I'm doing well, yeah. We'll be talking about it a little bit later, but looks like it's something that people that listen to us might be interested in. So, but if you want to find me, you can get at Brian Knowledge on Gab, Parler, Getter, Truth Social. If you want to check out my blog, biteoftech.com. And of course, go to our website, infectionpodcast.com. And on the right-hand side, make sure you join our server on Discord. And that's a place where if you want to check out the news channel, maybe there's a topic you think we should cover, toss a link in there and we'll review it before the live show. Or maybe there's a game or something that you think we're not talking about that we should be. If you want to play some Ark, we got 11 Ark servers going right now. And if they're all connected and you can play and your heart's content on pretty much every normal map that they release. We also have some politics channel and things like that. But if you're interested in that, just click and it's a free service on your web page, or it can be in a mobile app or a desktop app. If you want to watch the video forms, just check out Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. Those are live and after the fact recordings. And then if you're going to listen to it, make sure you do it in the lower right-hand side. Just pick the particular podcast app or platform that you want to listen on. Now that is recorded and then upload once the show is done. So if you are trying to catch that live, you will have to do a video form. But if you are listening, check out the show notes while you listen, because we've got links for all the different topics, videos, everything that we show on there. Maybe you are in a low bandwidth situation. That works perfect for this, because you can just watch the particular videos and then listen to a small size file for the rest of it. But we've got everything that we reference through there, the sources and everything are linked in there, and that really helps if you are listening. We've got a video and audio player in there as well, so if you can watch it right on the webpage. And if you want to support the show, we got a support tab up top on infectionpodcast.com/support.
Yes, and speaking of support, I want to thank our friends Falcon Rain for hitting us up with the 40-month resubscription, and UGX Vibe for jumping in on the intro and hitting us up with the 54-month resubscription. I believe that's the top, or tied for the top subscriber on the program. So guys, thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated. All right. So Brian, you mentioned the show notes and videos and stuff. We don't often have episodes where we are really heavy on video, but this week is going to be one of them, as Gamescom officially opened. I'll say tonight, because it's over in Europe. So the opening event, what they call Opening Night Live, ONL, was hosted by that video game war guy, Jeff something or other, and it took place about midday here on the East Coast, and there's a lot of pretty interesting things that came out of there, some new games being talked about and things of that nature. So there is going to be a lot of video today, but before we jump into that, it is interesting. This is the first gaming event with an audience, a full crowd, that I think, in terms of, I know that PAX East happened and stuff, but the first conference, E3, hasn't happened in 2 years. This is the first gaming event in 2 years, and it's good to see that it's back.
And it seems like they put a lot of notices. I mean, it seems like there's kind of been a lot of silence when it came to some of the new upcoming titles. They've been holding back their trailers. They've been not showing things. And there was a lot of premieres at this event where this is like the first time you've seen any kind of video clips or anything other than the fact that it's going to happen. They've been holding their cards pretty well. So one of these, are you ready to jump in the first one?
Sure. Yeah. What you got?
First one's Dune Awakening. And there's people that are really into the whole Dune universe. Personally, I think it's an excellent thing for video games because it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, or
Dune was a book, right? I
guess,
like
yeah.
I
guess even like Harry Potter. There is a whole lore to Dune. There's a whole backstory to Dune. I mean, people that have read, it's a really thick book, and I don't know if there's other books that kind of went along with it, but there's a whole set of galactic, I guess, politics and everything that go along with it. And they did a movie here fairly recently, but there's an old movie that was put out. There's a movie that I think failed and never got completed that tried to come out. But this is based on that Dune world. And this is going to be an open world survival game.
Wow.
So kind of our roots here. And I don't know if this is done in Unreal Engine 5, but the graphics so far look good. I'm not sure what engine this is, but it's an open world survival MMO. So this is going to be multiplayer, not a single player type of a game. And they have a trailer here. There's not a ton in the trailer, but do you want to play that really quick and people kind of get to see a little bit of what the graphics look like and just a hint at what it might look like?
The game is called Dune Awakening, and it was announced or showed off earlier today at Gamescom. Let's take a look.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
You ain't kidding about looking incredible.
Yeah, the graphics look good.
Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. Face my fear. I will permit it to pass over and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain.
So there you have it, an open world survival MMO, and looking at it, Brian,
made by Funcom. So
that's damn it, you stole it right out of my mouth there. That is, a lot of folks might look at that and go, cinematic. Who's doing this? Who better to do an open world survival MMO than the folks that did Conan Exiles, which I would make the argument is one of the most. I would put Conan Exiles and Ark in the same tier as matured games out of the original survival wave. I would put those two in the same class. One of the top games that really progressed forward, and it did incredibly well. Literally, and for folks that are new, you might not remember, Funcom was essentially bankrupt before the launch of Conan Exiles. This was the literal definition of a last-ditch effort. The game was so successful, it saved the company, and now this Dune Awakening game looks freaking awesome. Without Conan Exiles, this game probably doesn't exist. Just think about that. That's kind of wild.
And I think also there's a lot of things happening there in that video. They definitely stuck to the lore, which makes sense. But you look at like the suits that they're wearing, all of that is done for a very specific reason. Like the thing is, that's a huge desert. Like that suit that he wears, it actually captures their sweat and recycles it because there's so little water on this planet. Like that's a big part of the story. There's so little water on the planet. Like that suit catches their sweat and then recycles it. So like they lose very little water throughout, just wandering the desert. His eyes glow because of the stuff that they're harvesting there. Like I don't know if it's like a drug or whatever that they use, but there's definitely a lot to the story that's going to be in there that someone who's not really watched the movies or not read the books, it'll be a really interesting story for them to kind of learn this whole universe. Because it's kind of like Star Wars and all that, where there's a bunch going on that, if you've never really watched the movies, or even Harry Potter, you've never watched the movies or read the books, you have no clue that there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in the background of this. And this is one of those where a lot of people will know all this coming into the game.
Yeah, so unfortunately, there is no release date. It's to be determined or to be announced from the folks over at Funcom. They didn't hint at anything at all. It is over on Steam, so you can go ahead and add it to your wish list, and it will be available on, I know for a fact it will be available on Xbox and PC. I'm not sure about PlayStation. I know Conan Exiles was not available on PlayStation. I don't know if Dune Awakening will be. If I were a gambling man, I wouldn't hold my breath on PlayStation. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. So that is Dune Awakening. So
yes, go to their website, sign up for the beta if you're interested in trying that out, because they do have a beta sign up that you can do. And I just wanted to mention, like, pulling up this website on my vertical screen gives me like a mobile version that actually looks really cool. Like you drag to the left and it has this whole website that you don't normally see on a computer. So
yeah, I don't want to pull it up because it's one of those graphic accelerated web pages where it just like slows down my computer beyond belief. So you can check out that. The Steam link and all of that will be on our show notes. All right, next up at from Gamescom just a few hours ago was an announcement from the folks over at Borderlands. Now, we talked about Tales from the Borderlands probably a couple of years ago, and we got an announcement about the new Tales from the Borderlands, which is going to be coming out. So here is the trailer for that.
Most stories in the Borderlands start bloody. They end bloody too. Sometimes all it takes to change the galaxy is a trio of losers trying to get through a bad day.
We are in the middle of a TDR invasion.
Leave immediately! This area is now under TDR jurisdiction!
They think there was a vault key being kept on the station.
If we can find whatever's in that vault before TDR does, we can change our lives!
We're bad at this, like really bad. Tidio has many guns, talking guns, guns with legs.
I'm gonna blast you so freaking bad! Yeah! Shut up, Richard!
I always wanted to change the universe for the better, and now we actually can!
But more importantly, we'll be drowning in ash!
Why are you people like this?
If you happen to see any corpses along the way, don't worry about them. They're just, don't worry about them.
Now, this one actually, with a relatively soon release date, this is going to be out on all platforms. And when I say all platforms, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series S and X, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, Steam, and the Epic Game Store. Wow. All of that will be released on October the 21st of this year. So coming up here in a little less than 2 months, right?
Yeah, and the one thing that's interesting about this is these are unlikely heroes. You look at them, none of them know how to fight. You know, they're kind of doing a story. It's kind of like one of those comedy shows where before you had vault hunters, bandits, all these people that were pretty experienced fighters, except for the robot. And now you got 3 people who are. I think it looks like an interesting way to tell a story, and I'm assuming that they kind of figured it out along the way.
Yeah, and you talked about lore with Dune. The amount of lore that they've created in the Borderlands universe in a relatively short amount of time. Yeah, it's a huge story, and it's not that old. I mean, I'm trying to remember when the original Borderlands came out. Was it even a decade ago? I'm not sure that it.
I mean, it may be 10 years ago.
Yeah. So, let's see, Borderlands.
And they've done so much. Like when they're telling the story, they introduce the characters kind of like in a video, like a comic strip does. It's like, hey, here's this guy, and then you learn more. And there's usually a lot of comedy too. They're just quirks and they're odd people. There's a lot of interesting characters in this game.
So 13 years ago, so 2009, so a little bit more than a decade ago, is when this game came out. And even for that, I'll still stand by the statement. It's a relatively short amount of time. Incredible reviews on Borderlands 1, really good reviews on Borderlands 2 as well. It's kind of that Mad Max comedy with the well, trying to remember the name of the art
slapstick
style.
type of comedy.
What's the art style that that this is that everybody loves? Something shade cell or something like that.
Cell shaded.
Cell shaded art style, which is very aesthetically pleasing that people like. So obviously they have been able thus far to, and I don't say this from a place of ill intent, but milk the game and continue to release DLC and stuff, and people continue buying it and playing it. So that's what they're doing. That's going to be out here on October the 21st.
All right. So this next one is from the Subnautica devs. I saw you put a note of that in there.
Yeah, I didn't want to just to break it out. I didn't want to. I'm not going to show the trailer or anything like that because it's not a survival game at all. But the folks that made Subnautica, which is a very popular survival game, are actually making a weird, like, miniature,
like tabletop
RPG game called Moonbreaker. So I'm not going to play the trailer for it because it's literally just this. But they're making this. They
kind of like a card collecting game is what it sounds like, because like collect units and build rosters,
something like that. Yeah, it's Hearthstone.
Like you're collecting characters. 3D. I mean, like Raid, some of those games that I play, you're collecting characters to then be able to beat bosses. Is what it looks like.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. I just thought it was an interesting shift. They have 2 Subnauticas now, and then a couple of DLC packs. And instead of trying to redo Subnautica, the idea of Subnautica in a different universe or something else, they decided they ended up partnering with some well-known, I believe he was an author, I don't know exactly. He essentially wrote the universe and the story that this game Moonbreakers takes place in. So that was part of that, and that is actually scheduled to be released here in just a couple of weeks. It'll be out by the end of September. Yeah. If you look at their website, the early access begins in 36 days, and that's available over on Steam as well.
It says it's set in an expansive retro sci-fi universe crafted by best-selling sci-fi and fantasy author Brandon Sanderson. So
there you go. That's exactly.
That'll be interesting to see. Personally, I like some of those if they're really creative worlds. Kind of like, because it brings you in. Kind of, it's like some of the other ones that we showed, where there's those worlds that really pull you in, and then you're like, oh, I want to know more about this, or I'm more interested in this character, and there's actually information about that character you can go learn about.
Let me say this. I hope and pray that they make this game for the iPhone and for Android. This would be a killer game on mobile. Now, I'm sure it'll work on, I know it's going to be on Steam, I know it's going to be on PC, but this is the kind of game that if they do make it an Unreal Engine, which presumably they are, I believe that's what Subnautica and Unreal or Unity, I don't remember.
I thought it was Unreal.
Nevertheless, this should be a mobile game, and I hope they do make it a mobile game, because if that's the case, I've actually been playing that, what's the name of the game? Diablo Immortal. I've been playing that because it's a
yeah.
fun mobile game, and I've been able to go through that. So yeah, it's called Moonbreaker.
Well, and the turn-based works for that. I mean, it works for
does,
mobile because
absolutely.
it doesn't have to be crazy graphics. You can kind of sit there and pick your turns and set the phone down for a second, and then come back to it and finish your turn out, and it doesn't have to be real time. So I think that could be a very good world, but we'll see how they make it. It says it does have online and offline play.
Yeah, so that is, you can check out their website if you want to get more details, moonbreaker.com. There'll be a link on our show notes on infectionpodcast.com. Up next is a game that we have talked about for a while, and that is Dying Light 2. And they've got a new DLC that is set to come out here shortly that is called The Bloody Ties, and here is the trailer for that.
Come back to the city and join the deadliest spectacle of this season. I'm gonna tell you a story about a species that survived millennia. Homo neanderthalensis, Homo rhodesiensis, Homo erectus, all of them wiped out by the deadliest species of all, us. I am Astrid. This is the new arena. And my advice for you, stay alive. Let out the beast. Let out the beast. Let out the beast. Let out the Every day you fight for survival. But today, you fight for glory. Anyone can be a warrior. What makes you different is the spirit of a champion. Let out the beast. Let out the beast. Let out the beast. Let out the beast. Let out the beast.
So what I found interesting with this is that they show it right here. It says community update number 1. You asked for it. And they put out this tweet, Brian, and it's a picture. I'm not going to go into anything on it. But they're calling this the community update 1. And this is what they just implemented ahead of this new DLC. And this is apparently the things that they have heard from the community of people that play Dying Light 2 Stay Human. These are some of the things that they wanted, color grading and various things like that. They wanted that stuff in the game. They asked for it, and now they got it, which is so great to see that there's still some of this community interaction and involvement.
Yeah, and it's a story adventure, and it looks like you kind of do arena type of matches, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
it's going to be a little bit different than what happened before. I don't know. I played Dying Light 1. I did try at PAX playing Dying Light 2 before they actually released it, but it looks like they've polished it a lot since then. A story DLC, this is kind of the stuff that I like for people that really enjoyed the game, because there's some games that I played through that I really enjoyed, and then it was like, oh, there's no more content for it, and it's like they never released content for it. Kind of like Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, I wish they would put out more story content. So if you're a person who enjoyed this game, like, this is the perfect kind of content to put out for them. It'll give you hours of gameplay without it being super repetitive.
Yeah, exactly. So the cool news with this is also got a relatively soon release date. This is coming out October the 13th, so about a month and a half or so before the release of this.
All right, this next one is based on a television series, right? Isn't that? Because there was a television series that was named this back in the day. So I think it's going to be based on that kind of world.
I don't know if it is based on the television series or not, but the fact that you mentioned that might make a little bit more sense. It's a game called The Expanse, and they are, let's see, where's my video for Expanse? And they are, I can I not find my spell? There it is. It is a sci-fi game, which would base it off of, or could potentially have it based off the TV show. So it's a new IP, for lack of a better term. Let's take a look at the trailer here. It's about 2 minutes or so.
Drummer, his suit is punctured and losing pressure. You need to release the vault attached now, or he could die.
Hold still. We'll see what we can do. Captain Drummer, what are your orders?
The Expanse is obviously one of those universes that has a ton of opportunities to tell great.
So I guess so, Brian. They say so it's got to be based off the TV show, yeah.
Stories. One of the things I'm super excited about is the zero-G stuff that we've been doing. A big part of when we're making the game, not only are we thinking about the characters, we also have to think about how can we evolve the genre in any way that will make players excited to be part of this universe and feel like they're engaging in something rather than just being a passive audience member.
You'll figure something out. I know you will.
It's actually been a really interesting thing as an actor to explore some of her more vulnerable sides that by the time we meet her in the series, they've been cauterized.
Because this score, Drummer, this is the greatest score any scavenger has ever come across. You'll need me if you want any chance of unloading it.
The craziness of an exploded ship that now constitutes several parts in a mass that you can move among, and balancing that out against almost like you're excavating a story. That's a personal story. Those are people, those are characters, and you are now among their ghosts. Whatever they were doing right before they died, being a scavenger, it's a pretty dark job. We're really excited about how it feels to both play and experience the story in the game.
Whoever did this is long gone, and we still have a ship that's ready to be scavenged. So get to it.
So a couple of interesting things to note there. It's called The Expanse, a telltale series, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's the folks from Telltale Games are behind it. And Brian, as you mentioned, based off of that sci-fi TV show, at least it seems in some aspects with the large scale universe, kind of gives me a trying to remember the name of the space game. I just said it, and now it's a Dead Space. Kind of got a little bit of that Dead Space grungy vibe. You're scavenging presumably ships that are full of dead people to gather resources and things. So very much a Dead Space kind of vibe with it. And with this, it's expected out sometime in the summer of 2023. And those are the details that we have on it as of right now.
Well, and that's one thing. If you heard that one female that was being interviewed, she said, well, by the time you see her in the series, I think she was talking about the TV series. So I think they're using some of the original actors for this to play some of these roles in the video game. And I assume it's telling maybe different parts or earlier in their story or something like that. She said, by the time you meet her in the series, her whatever is pretty cauterized about her. Like there's things that are set in stone about her. And maybe this kind of shows before that, but and it's set in a time when there's Saul kind of points it out in chat. He says it's a great show, but Mars versus Earth. You know, we're mining Mars and we're doing all this stuff, and then there's kind of politics now between these two worlds. You know, rather than between continents or between countries, you're having politics between two different planets in our solar system, and so it's a pretty interesting take and a different look for a Telltale game. You know, it's not the same. It's actually done in a more 3D. They didn't take away. Usually they just use a shader, a cell shader type of a thing to take away a lot of the detail. And they're getting a lot closer to a normal full 3D type of video game in this one. And if you remember, Telltale almost went bankrupt. I think they did shut down for a while. Then they came back and said, hey, we're going to finish these games or whatever it was they were working on. And they finished some of them. And it seems like they've kind of come back from the brink on that. So I appreciate that because a lot of people were very upset with what happened.
Walking Dead, they tried to milk. They milked that way too much.
Yeah,
that was them, right?
Yeah, they did The Walking Dead, the one about the wolf guy, the werewolf guy. I don't know if it was the wolf or something like that. But yeah, they have a number of games. This hopefully will be a good comeback, and I think it's pretty smart. They do use well-known stories for the most part. The Walking Dead, it was really played out. The Expanse, I think, is a series that ended, which I think is better because this kind of never-ending story that you go kind of like what they did with The Walking Dead, where just now I think the Expanse was through to 2022, so I don't know if they've actually ended the series or not. But don't milk it out like they did with The Walking Dead. Like tell a story and then maybe tell a different story. But here, I don't think this world's as linear as The Walking Dead was because you only had so many characters, in a world where there wasn't very many people and only so many settings, zombies and dead people. Here you've got a whole planets and everything else and spaceships and a lot of different avenues to pursue.
Well, if you don't want it milked, you're probably not excited to find out that Amazon Prime purchased it from Sci-Fi back in 2019, and they're producing it now. So if I know anything about Amazon,
okay, so they're going to keep going with it.
They'll milk it until there's absolutely nothing left.
I've watched part of the first season, but I encourage you to go check it out.
Yeah, it seems like an interesting series, and it caught my eye watching the announcements in the show this afternoon. Kind of that grungy space style fighting game. So that is The Expanse, and you can check out the trailer on our website. Well, it has been, Brian, nearly a decade. And I don't say that lightly. It's been nearly a decade since Dead Island 2 was announced. You have to go back to like 2011, or actually no, probably 2012 or 13, I guess, would be when Dead Island 2 was announced. The open world zombie survival game, obviously based off of Dead Island 1, and they finally showed it at Gamescom, and it seems like it is actually going to come to fruition.
Stand the fuck back. It's hammer time.
This way for the happy ending.
Jimmy? Humanity's survival depends on the red gold pumping through my veins.
Well, sounds like you're the star of the show now.
This motherfucker!
Oh shit. Boom! Gods and whiskey!
I will not have this devil in my house!
This is beyond insane.
So you can hear some of the fanfare there as this game has been talked about on and off for the last 8, 9, 10 years. I don't think Dead Island needs much of an explanation. It's a game of its own class. It's an open world hack and slash zombie game that's got stupid.
Seems like they brought a lot more
comedy
story into it. Yeah, on this one, it looks like they did a really good job of kind of going with that Grand Theft Auto style of humor, because it gave me a lot of vibes of how Grand Theft Auto tells their stories, and it seems like it's very edgy. They've upgraded the graphics quite a bit. If I remember correctly, the original Dead Island made me really nauseous when I played it. There was something with the graphic style that they used, or something that I just remember playing it and I couldn't play it for a long time because it made me nauseous. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
but
it has
hopefully
been,
they've got that fixed.
It's been nearly a decade since I played the original Dead Island, so I remember arguably nothing about it. But I'm glad to see that after months and years and years have gone by, that it is looks like it's finally resurrected, no pun intended, and it is going to be slated to make its release here on February 3rd. Happens to be my birthday of 2023. So there you go. That's when Dead Island 2 comes out.
Your birthday present.
Yeah, if anybody wants to buy me a copy, hit me up on Discord. Thanks.
Sounds good.
So that's it. Now, there was obviously a lot of other stuff at Gamescom, but that is what we know, or that's kind of the stuff that seemed interesting to me, and it kind of fit our status of communities and things like that for a little while. So
our boys are looking forward to the Goat Simulator. That's all they've been talking about.
Yeah, Goat Simulator 3 was announced. There was a new PlayStation controller that was announced, as well as some other things, but that was kind of the stuff that caught my eye. So that's Gamescom 2022.
Now, do you mind if we talk really quickly about some Microsoft stuff and some things coming out on their Game Pass here pretty soon?
Go ahead and take it away. My voice is shot, so well, go ahead. It's all you.
So they did an announcement here recently, and they're putting some of the old Bethesda titles onto the Microsoft Game Pass. So Quake 4, now for me, Wolfenstein 3D, Elder Scroll Legend, the Battlespire, they have Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and the Elder Scroll Adventures Redguard. And this Wolfenstein 3D, I've mentioned it before, but that was the very first video game I ever purchased when I was a kid, because it was, I think it was the original 3D style video game that was made. I don't remember any other games. Now, I don't think it actually used 3D to do it. They did a weird kind of a 2D thing that made it look 3D. But it was the first done in that 3D style, and it just blew my mind. And so for those that maybe want to have a little nostalgia and look back, I would encourage you to go, and if you have the Game Pass, you can go and play it on your PC for free. And it uses an emulator to do that. I'm not sure if they let you play it on the console, but it is available for the PC for these various ones, Quake 4, a lot of the old titles. And this is something that for people that are interested, that are my age, it'll bring back some memories. And then some other things that are happening on the Activision Blizzard side is Overwatch is now stopping selling loot boxes this month because they are getting ready to release this new Overwatch, the Overwatch 2
that makes
release.
sense.
And it's going to be a transition. So I think they're one thing. I assume that Overwatch 2 is going to have loot boxes. But I'm not seeing that exactly. But it says Blizzard is sunsetting loot boxes during the third chapter of its anniversary remix event that kicks off today. The 3-week promotion features a handful of legendary skin recolors based on old favorites. So maybe they'll be doing something different in Overwatch 2. Oh yeah, they're going to be doing battle passes. That's what it is. They're doing battle passes in Overwatch 2. So they're not going to be doing the loot box thing. So you'll pay for a battle pass and you'll get your loot that way, which I think is a better way to do it overall. For people that play it consistently, battle passes for me make a lot of sense. And so that's going to be happening, and they will be sunsetting over the original Overwatch and then starting Overwatch 2 to continue. Another thing that's go ahead.
Well, as you know, I've been very critical of PC Gamer in the past, but I do have to agree with their byline here. One monetized door closes and another opens. It's not like they're getting rid of selling things, extra services. They're just changing the way that they're doing it.
They're changing the way that they're collecting your money. And
correct, exactly.
I personally would rather have something that based on my gameplay gives me a better reward. That's why I like the Battle Pass, because doing individual loot boxes, it seems like the value is just not that great. Like you're paying money and you're getting a chance to open something that's most likely green, like a green item or something really low level. Where with the Battle Pass system, the more you play, you're guaranteed to get something at least interesting. And you can kind of see the path of what you're getting. It's less of a gambling type system, more of a reward for playtime type of a system.
Precisely.
So that works for me. another thing that's happened here is the judge now denies Activision Blizzard's attempt to toss the California discrimination lawsuit. So this is going to be continuing on for them. This is the same lawsuit under which Activision Blizzard itself has been accused of destroying evidence and corruption. But, you know, when you've got these unions that are coming after you, they're willing to say anything, and they've got these people that write these articles in their ear. So that's one thing that frustrates me is I have a hard time knowing what's real and what's not real because I've heard so many ridiculous claims from PC Gamer, Kotaku, and all these other places about what they're saying. But the judge ruled that the relevant ethics rules focused on blocking lawyers from switching sides in a lawsuit or going into private practice to prosecute the same case for greater profit. But he noted that none that had actually happened in this case, far from promoting the public interest. Any attempt to disqualify plaintiffs strongly conflict with public policy. So, you can go and read more about it, but they are going to continue that lawsuit. Another thing is, of course, the CWA, which is one of those unions that we've been talking about. You know, the Ravens QA Workers Alliance and
unions.
All of this. Yeah, they say that Activision Blizzard, they accuse them of spying on workers and threatening to shut down labor discussions. Now,
darn,
the union has filed an unfair labor charge claiming that Activision Blizzard spied on employees who took part in a July walkout to demand reproductive health care protections in the wake of Roe versus Wade overturning. They cut off employee access to office chat channels specifically for labor discussion matters and threatened to shut down additional internal channels where such topics were being talked about. So the complaint also called to light previous... Yeah.
Why are we talking about labor and sex and abortions at work? This isn't a. This isn't a Planned Parenthood clinic in which it's an active discussion where you're talking about murdering babies. You're a video game developer. Why does your opinion on abortion matter at all?
Exactly, and in most of those people, you can see that they have they're not in good faith. When they're going the people that go to these things, they're actively trying to hurt the company from what I've seen. I mean, from what I observe and what I read about what they say, they're actively attempting to hurt the company. And then you wonder why they're like, well, we'd rather not have them in these labor talks.
Brian,
because
I'm
they're
glad
just going
you
to be
used
feeding
that
information to the union.
I am so glad you used that term. It's been a term I've been adopting over the past couple of weeks, talking about good versus bad faith. And a lot of this stuff that is being done is done in bad faith, specifically done in bad faith. They're doing it to rip things apart. It's not this, innocent, woe is me. I'm doing this because I care. It's specifically done to harm and not done from a point of good faith. And that needs to be called out for what it is.
Yeah, and one interesting thing here, and just to give you, this writer's perspective, I want to read you the last part of the last paragraph. It says, it has been well past a year since Blizzard's scandal came to light, and it would seem that the studio refuses to stop its labor-related crime spree until the Microsoft buyout completes sometime in 2023. That's not the most biased reporting. When this is supposed to be reporting that they're doing, it's what they claim. It's not an opinion. It doesn't have the label opinion piece. It says news at the top, industry news.
I see that.
This is not a. It's amazing the amount of bias. But if you look, their source is that CWA, the Communications Workers of America, and it's trying to create a union, and it's just. That's what I said. They're in the ear of all of these people that write articles for these various blogs. They're direct communication, and we've seen a lot of these type of people there at the various conventions and everything. These people have an agenda when they write for these places. I can't really say I have an agenda other than I believe that you should do what's right. And that's what my agenda is. So my perspective is coming from that. Their version of what's right is very different. But I don't sit there and try to pretend, I'm doing one thing and then say another. And I feel like that's a lot here. They pretend they're reporting the news, but then their quotes and that they can't help but say it in a way that shows their hand. And it's just it's just frustrating to read, because when you're really trying to dig down, just like I mentioned this last week, but you're trying to dig down and figure out what's really happening in a story, and it's just like the bias just creeps in every single time, because they can't quite write it straight like they used to.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Saul says, Brian's working for big morality. Watch out.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is I don't think I'm a libertarian. I don't think you should infringe on anybody's rights, but you need to start treating everyone equally. When I see so much where it's like, okay, these people are protected, but these people aren't. Well, okay, that's a problem for me, because that happened a long time ago in World War II with the Nazis. And as long as you're willing to protect one class and not another, you're willing to do all kinds of things to the other class. And I think everyone should be equal on all footing.
If you'd like to hear more about a similar topic, Brian, I'd invite our audience to tune into tomorrow's edition of Wilmington's Morning News, because Starbucks workers here in Wilmington are threatening to unionize, and I'll have the latest details on that. So we've seen, and the only reason I bring that up is because you talk about the lawsuits. Starbucks has been sued by all of these different unions, and actually these various unions, again air quotes, have been very successful in terms of litigation, suing Starbucks and winning. There was just a settlement. It was either yesterday or late last week over unfair practices that the union that they levied against Starbucks, claiming that they were actively hampering union discussions and things of that, and they won. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of this.
And I've seen some interesting things about Starbucks and them kind of changing their views, it seems like, from an outside perspective. But if you look, they have left a lot of the incredibly liberal areas, because of the one thing, they posted the crime statistics of what happens within blocks of their Starbucks in the major cities like Portland and everything. They've taken so much damage. There's crime rampant in those areas because there's not the law enforcement's been pushed out. If you're a CEO or someone in upper management over there, you got to be looking at, okay, well, look, the people that we claim that we're so friendly with, just look at what they're doing to our company. And it's almost impossible to do business there. And they make you think that eventually they'd come around, and it seems like they are, because they've shut down a lot of those various stores in those areas because they can't survive because of all the occupies and everything else that happened have destroyed their businesses there. Yeah. And they've been looted. I mean, just all kinds of crazy stuff. Let's talk quickly about Tencent, because we brought up a little bit last week so how the China game market's been doing. And now
poorly.
They did their Q2 revenue release, and now Tencent, in a reaction to that, is laying off over 5,000 workers.
Wow.
Now, if this is going to give you an indication of where their current state of the company is and their outlook, their gross profits fell from 9.25 billion to 8.5 billion year on year. They have a decline of a quarterly revenue, dropping by 3% to 19.7 billion when compared to the same last year quarter. So this year's not doing well in a time when a lot of people are home and playing video games, but look at the economy. The economy is in the tank. So their Tencent hasn't had to reduce its staff since 2014. That's the last time they've had to let anybody go. And so, whether it's the shutdowns, COVID, I think it's more the economy here at the current time. This is, and the economy of China. If you look at their housing market and everything, their real estate investing market is just crashing, and there's a lot of problems happening over there right now, to where they're having a lot of issues. Plus, they've been shutting down all the for a long time. They shut down all the authorizations of new video games, which is what Tencent does. Like, they're one of the warehousers that get, or publishers, you could call them, they get the video games to market inside of China.
Correct.
Right now, I think the only thing that's helping them is a lot of their U.S. investments. The China investments are doing very poorly. And there's a copy. We'll have a link to the quarterly report. I'll put a link to it. But if you want to go check out what their numbers are, but pretty dismal. And we'll see if this continues and how it affects their purchases of United States companies.
Yeah, and you brought up you call them a warehouse. That's one of the big revenue streams for Tencent is games that are developed outside of China. They partner with Tencent, or essentially are forced to partner with Tencent, might be the better word to use, to publish that game in the country. And that is exactly...
China does not give you a choice. You don't get a choice who you work with. And that's the thing. I've brought it up multiple times. If you want to make a video game and you want to publish it in China, if you want to make a movie and you want to release it in China, they require you to record and do a certain percentage of that film in China. But you got to think, if this is a film based in America, they then have to figure out where they're going to film, how they're going to do it, and make it so that like 20 or 30%, I don't remember what it is, of the film is done in China, just to be able to have that market, because it's such a huge... This is what killed H1Z1. I mean, H1Z1, they fell for this, and they went all in and started catering to China, and then China cut them off at the knees, and now look where they're at now. I think that it's a danger to go all in, and here's another example of that. For companies that have gone all in into the Chinese gaming market, bam, they got shut down when they quit accepting video games, and now their whole market, and then they limit kids being able to play video games. And if you made a video game for kids, well, your game shot in that market. So they're just very unpredictable, which really hurts when you're trying to view it as an investment.
Absolutely. I want to thank our friend Big Woody Sauce for hitting us up with the 44-month resubscription here on Twitch. Thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated.
And so, that's Tencent right now. Do you have a preference what we talk about after this? We've got a number of things. I wasn't sure.
No, go ahead.
There was a purchase made by a very large conglomerate here of some IPs. And I didn't really, I was kind of surprised by this. We actually talked about one of these IPs in the last couple of weeks, but Embarcer has purchased, for instance, the Lord of the Rings IP. So this is something that, there's video games. I think they're going to be there. There's Lord of the Rings online. There's a lot going on with it, but also Tripwire Interactive. They're the parent of a lot of, I think THQ Nordic, Gearbox. They have a lot going on, but they have purchased some of these pretty big and decent sized either IPs or companies. And so how this is going to affect those, it'll be interesting to see, because you haven't seen a lot of Lord of the Rings things recently, but it's a really good, kind of like some of these other whole stories that we've talked about in some of these other video games. I would be interested in seeing more from Lord of the Rings. As far as there's a lot of story there you can go off of, and most of them have been very linear PS3, PS2 style games, and I haven't seen so much lately in the more modern environment where you could have a true open world and some pretty cool stuff. I'd have to look and see what some of these other ones that they got are under. I think like Killing Floor Studio is a part of Tripwire. Limited Run Games, which does the physical editions of a lot of those digital indie games. Tuxedo Labs, they did Teardown. There's just a lot of them, but they purchased those companies because I think some companies are tanking because they haven't been doing well. Some companies seem to have some cash, and they're viewing this as an opportunity. Just like when the housing market goes down, you get some people who are like, all right, I'm ready to buy a house, when other people are losing their houses, right? I think that this is one of those where the video game market is struggling right now, but maybe some that for some reason have some cash or have investors that are willing to throw some cash around. This is the time to buy those companies that are willing to, they're struggling and are worried about going out of business or worried about something happening with them. So, they didn't disclose the purchase price.
Struggling, but also, this is becoming a more and more competitive field because Microsoft and Sony are gobbling up any company with a pulse that's making video games. So to potentially corner some part of that market, this is probably the best time to get in on that, would be my guess.
Yes, exactly. So I view this as, some of these right now are probably on the verge of going out of business. They're not putting out. It's a really big risk right now to put out video games. We saw some really cool video games coming out, but you know how many of those they'll release, they don't get picked up, and it's like, okay, well, that was a waste. And I think a lot of people are struggling with cash right now to where they're really nervous about releasing a video game in a market where, I don't know, 25% may be popular. It's really hit and miss as far as how many take off, where back in the day you could release a ton of video games and people were purchasing them like crazy. People are picking and choosing what they purchase right now, or it's going on the Game Pass, so you kind of have a guaranteed stream of income from Microsoft. So there's probably a lot of them that don't have those ways. Yeah, it will.
Well, and now that you've got the new MSRP of games jumping up to $69.99 versus $59.99, I would expect that divide and that gap to continue.
Yep. I wanted to, Big Woody Sauce, he was asking about, the films in China. I wanted to mention, I pulled up an article really quick, and this is kind of in parallel with the video game industry. There was an article where it says American movies used to make big bucks in China, but not for the last few years. And it's because of the politics. China has pulled back and cut Hollywood's access to the Chinese market recently. They said that American film studios released in China dropped by a third last year. And this has been a trend with them. They did it with video games. They've done it with movies. They view us as a bad influence on their people. So they're cutting us out. We talked about the feminization of their men. They don't like that. That's a big push behind this. They view what we put out in Hollywood, even though they're pushing for us to have it here because they view it as making us weaker. But they refuse to have that return to them. What they push here to try to get into our movies and our films and our video games, they refuse to allow over there.
Well,
which is interesting.
And that's the interesting point is, while, they own and pretty much operate TikTok and all of these other services and platforms,
they're pushing these things. Yeah,
exactly. They're infiltrating these markets, and in the meantime, nothing Western world is getting into there at all.
Yes, and that allows them to really give all their people a perspective of us. I think it's all a build up for a war that they're hoping for. I've said it. I'm not shy to say it, but I think that's the end goal for them, and they're viewing that as kind of like the Cold War. If you look at the Cold War, we tried to poise ourselves as, hey, we're advanced in technology. We got a lot of nuclear bombs. We try to poise ourselves as tough, and the Russians tried to poise themselves as very tough. I think we're having a similar kind of a Cold War type of scenario with China, where China is trying to look tough right now, and they're trying to make us look weak, and I think they're doing a pretty good job of it, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. All right, Brian, we got just a few minutes left. Anything else that you want to cover before we get out of here?
All right, well, let's talk about one more, and this is kind of just an interesting thing that happened on a gaming modding site, and this is Nexusmods. One thing that is in the Spider-Man game, there's some flags in there, and they have the pride flag. And so a modder made a flag that would take the pride flag and replace it with the United States flag instead in the video game. And so what they ended up doing is they banned that mod, and they banned that user for creating that mod. and so they also have on here comments that they made regarding it. Now, there are some areas I'm all about freedom of speech. So this as a private company, I think, has the ability to do whatever they want. So I'm not going to get after them for choosing to ban this, but I just want to point out some hypocrisy in all of this. One thing that he did do is he did ban what they're kind of getting him on is ban evasion, because they banned him and did all this, and he created what they call a sock puppet account, and so here they said the fact that the user needed to make a sock puppet like a coward to upload the mod showed their intent to troll, and that they knew it would not be allowed. And so with this, I see a lot of people that have made some really interesting comments in the chat about it. When you go to, I think it's the Twitter feed, I have another link there, but they pretty much say, this is our stance. If you don't like it, if this policy upsets you, if we're broken some moral code of conduct that as a business that you can't accept, please delete your account and move on as we will. And that's the thing is, I view this as a private company. I believe in freedom of speech. So, they have the right to ban this guy and to delete his account and to do all this. But what if in the same tone, I wanted to, you had someone who wanted to replace the American flag and replace it with, some other place's flag. Now, one thing that I did see is he called it the stupid pride flag in his mod description, which showed, if anything, you just say, I prefer not to have this in my, my game, so I'm replacing it with the American flag instead, which is a thing that's already in there. I found it to where I see a lot of hypocrisy, but
they
can do it.
I love in the comments here that they call what he did hate speech. Replacing the pride flag with the American flag is hate speech. That is all you need to know, to go back to a term you used, Brian, to know that these individuals are not acting in good faith. Nobody that is acting in good faith would make that comment. Nobody.
No,
there's nothing
that's
hateful
the thing is,
about replacing one flag with another.
But the thing is, they have put it from a perspective of America is evil because of look how repressive they are, and then the pride flag stands for fighting against that repression, which is the weirdest thing that they've tried to turn that into. But if you look at this, just replacing, because let's say there was a flag that had what's that black flag that Islam with the
ISIS flag.
The ISIS flag. If you had the ISIS flag in a video game, you're like, well,
would be fine.
I don't want to see the ISIS flag, and I wanted to replace it with the American flag instead. Would you see anything like this? No, it's because they've made a religion out of this. This is a religion to them, and people do all kinds of things in the name of religion, and they get really mad in the name of religion. This is where I try to not turn personal views into a religion, which is exactly what the pride argument, the abortion argument, you name what it is, because look at what they're trying to do to businesses in the name of this religion. Yeah. This is a religion. It has become a religion, and you could say the left's religion. This is their new religion. If they don't, because they tend to not believe in God, this is their religion. This is what they've chose to pursue. And here, just like if you were to do something that mocked Muhammad, or if you did something to mock Jesus Christ, there's people that get really bent out of shape. Where I say you should have the right to make fun of whoever you want. That's your personal decision. I don't have to like it. But if you want me to be able to say something that you don't like, I need to be able to let you say something that I don't like. But here, obviously, they don't follow that same standard. Where there's plenty of things that get said on the internet and done on the internet that I don't agree with. But I don't say, ban these people, because they have the right to say their opinion. Because a lot of times my opinion is unpopular in these crowds.
Well, and that's exactly what this is. And I mean, going through the comments here, if you really want to have a good time, go read through the comments. They're linked on our show notes at infectionpodcast.com. And, it's just, you can mod your game if you want, but we're not required. Nobody's required to host your hate speech or host this awful thing that you're doing by replacing a flag. Let's just remind you what this is. This is replacing a flag. That's it. Yeah. It changes the flag that is a pride flag, which is inherently a very small group of people.
It's a very political. It means a lot of politics now. It's no longer about simple things.
To the American flag, which is a symbol of an entire country. That's what this does.
And I view it more as like, what if I didn't, just like the Black Lives Matter flag? I never agreed with that. I prefer not to ever see it in a video game, because I view that there was a lot of things happening behind it.
And see, they're saying that that's fine that you want to do that, but that Nexusmods shouldn't have to host it because it's hateful.
But if I don't want the Black Lives Matter flag because I don't like what they represent,
I guess
the politics behind it.
Why,
what's so bad about that?
Somebody is going to have to start a third-party another modding website.
Exactly, because
just allows stuff that isn't so stupid.
And that's the thing, that's what you can do, because people say, well, what can you do about it? You're not going to go sue them, because if you truly believe in freedom of speech, that would be hypocrisy on your part. But you know what? Take your business elsewhere. If you don't agree with what they do, don't use their service. If you don't like what a company does, quit using their product. All these people talking about how they hate what Activision Blizzard does. They hate what World of Warcraft, is all about. Well, why are you still playing it then? You sit there and say, oh, we want to take it over and we want to demand all this change, but you're sitting there and still supporting their product and playing their game. For me, if I don't like what they do, I quit using their products and I move on. That's how I voice my vote with them, is by not giving them money. And yet it's like they can't seem to understand that instead they go after and try to shut down their company and do a lot of slander and lies and come up with a lot of things that are unprovable. And that's their method for trying to change a company. Well, how about you just quit giving them business? And if there's enough people that view the same thing the way that you do, that'll make a difference to the company and they'll change. If half the people because I bet you half the people have a perspective that, well, you know what, they don't agree with what Nexusmod is doing, or at least their approach to it. Well, then half those people should quit using the product. And guess what? They won't have enough advertising funds from the clicks on their website to be able to stay in business, and they'll change. Either they'll change or they'll go out of business. That's how you deal with it. Quit trying to shut them down. That's the whole cancel culture thing. You don't want to support them. Quit giving them money. That's the secret. But yeah, people just can't seem to figure that out, and they keep shoveling money to all these companies that they disagree with politically or, you know, philosophically or whatever.
Yeah. So, there you go. That is, that's that. Good stuff, I guess, from all these mod websites. You know, again, the moral, the moral crowd, the moral outrage crowd, the the virtue signal crowd. They never cease to amaze, Brian.
Yes. So, all right. Well, are we out of time? One thing I will mention.
Yeah.
Twitch is finally allowing partners to stream outside of Twitch. So this is something where Twitch partners, people that were Twitch partners, were not allowed to use YouTube or any other type of services. I think this will show you the current state of where Twitch is at financially if they are removing this, because they're losing, or they would lose, all of their big people because they realize they're not making the money on Twitch that they can make somewhere else, where now they can get people to multi-stream and hopefully keep some of those people making money on their platform. They changed the amount that they were sharing with the people that were partners, and now they're allowing them to stream other places. You know, people, you don't see it. I don't browse Twitch a lot anymore, but how many people do you know that, other than coming for specific shows like this, hang out on Twitch all day? I just don't hear it anymore. I think they're struggling a lot more than people realize, and and all these indicators that they keep giving are signaling that exact same thing. So just another one of those heads up, because we've been kind of talking about where Twitch is going, and this is another one of those things.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, you ready for us to rolling out of here?
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, well, if you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, and Truth Social, or you can go to my blog, biteoftech.com. Of course, if you want to go to our website, go to infectionpodcast.com, and on the upper right-hand side, we've got our join our server on Discord. So if you want to talk politics, you want to play some ARC, if you want to submit some news links that you think we're missing, just go to the news channel and post a link in there, or post a topic in there, and we'll review it before the live show. And if it's something that's relevant, we'll put it in our show notes. And then if you want to watch the video forms of the podcast, we have those through Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. And those are recorded live and after the fact. And then our audio-only form is the lower right. So if you go to whatever platform you want to use, or there's a lot of services there available, but those are uploaded once the show is done. And then if that has happened, then we should have show notes posted as well, where you can go and follow along. We'll have a video and audio player in the show notes, and we'll have links to, this one was a very video intensive show. So if you're wanting to see some of those, there's a lot of pretty cool looking games that we showed today. Just jump in there and click some of those links as you listen, and that way you can have a kind of a low bandwidth type of a show experience. So if you want to support us, there is a support option in the menu, or infectionpodcast.com/support. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yes, and I want to thank a couple of folks for supporting us. I want to thank our buddy Falcon Rain for hitting us up with the 40-month subscription during the program, UGX Vibe 54 months, and Big Woody Sauce 44 months. Greatly appreciated, guys. Thanks for the support, and thanks for joining us. And Ross is saying, I thought DLive ended. I think DLive is still up. Okay, we're still streaming over there. We got 39 whole followers over there, so you can go dump us some lemons over at DLive. All right, Brian, thank you very much. Greatly, you probably did get banned. Greatly appreciated, and we will see you next Tuesday.
We'll see you later.
Alrighty, folks. Well, when we are back next Tuesday, hopefully I've got a voice that is more suitable for our airwaves. But if well, I will have one. So hopefully you'll join us next week. You can check me out on my website, nickcraig.com, and you can check out my radio program there. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. If you missed any portion of the show, especially all of those cool Gamescom videos, head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.